Hi, my name is Ruben and I am with Carb Technologies, a small startup company that sells tech-based equipment and installation services. Today, I will be showing you how to do a basic Ethernet line drop in your home wall. But before we start, I would like to share a little bit about myself. I have over 20 years experience in different facets of construction and 5 years experience as an installer. Now enough with the blah blah blah, let's get started on how to drop an Ethernet cable down your interior wall. So right here on my scale model that I made, I've already done some modifications to it to try to save on some time here. But basically we're going to do again how to do a basic wall drop. Nothing out of the ordinary, just a simple wall. Basically what you want to look at is how to find the most optimal spot in a wall. Of course you're going to need a power supply, but when you look for a power supply, you also want to make sure that when you put the opening, which in this case I already have, just to save some time, which is something that you can do with the basic box cutter type of device to make your strokes with the level so that you can make even lines, and you could also use this receptacle as a little stencil along with the level when you draw out your lines on the wall. But before you get to that point, you want to consider where are your studs in the wall. Now typically in construction, interior walls have a space between the studs of 16 inches or 24 inches, but 16 is usually the typical standard. Now the question is, how can I find my studs? One effective way that you can do that is by using a stud finder, or something that I particularly like is using a device called MagnaPull, and that usually runs you about $125 on Amazon. You got the retriever unit right here, which will help you look for the screws and or nails to give you an indication as to where your studs are at. So if you were to just simply row, you obviously cannot see what is behind the texture or anything, and then you feel a little magnetizing. That means you've hit a screw or a nail. That's one way of doing it. And then this also comes with its little partner. It's a drop magnet, which looks just like this right here. And I find this to be a little more effective. You could sweep the walls a little better, and it has a slight more pull to it. Again, this comes in a set, usually about $125. And you just run your magnet up against the wall, and you will eventually hit a screw or nail. Now, another little tidbit, you could use some plain blue painter's tape, which will not damage your wall whatsoever. So once you've found the preferred area that you want to cut into, you'd want to go ahead and mark basically where one stud starts and where the other one ends within a space. So you grab another piece of painter's blue tape, and again you just try to make sure that you're finding these screws and or nails in a line, and you want to mark another little indicator. So now we know that this is our void, and you could also verify that by doing a simple knock on the wall. It sounds hollow, versus to when you come towards the edge, it sounds a lot more dense. So hollow, dense. So now you know this is your parameter. Again, preferably, of course, you want to keep an eye out for any plugs in the wall. And you want to make your opening as far as possible from the plug. Of course not, 2 feet, but as close as you can to about 12 inches. Due to the fact that the electricity that runs through your walls can and will add a disturbance to your Ethernet line, and that could create an issue. Now, if you don't want to spend $125 using, these type of magnets, you could always just buy, a $1 magnet. And the same concept, what you could also do with these type of magnets, since they can be a little rough, is put a little tape on there, some painter's blue tape, to help you skid through the surface of the wall, and then you'll actually feel it pull once you get something. And the tape helps you from scratching the paint and or texture on the wall. And again, you will feel that pull with that magnet. That's a cheaper way of doing it if you don't want to spend that much amount of money. Now, another thing, once you more or less got your spot, I would suggest that you try to kind of come over as much as you can, but not hitting a stud. For another reason, which we'll see later, when it comes to dropping your line, it'll make it easier to find it in the wall, because when you go up to the attic, you're going to go as a reference on where your stud is and drill your hole so that it'll more directly impact the spot of your choice as far as when you drop the line. Now, there is another device that you can also buy on Amazon, which runs you about $200. It's called MagnaSpot. And this is a very efficient tool. It is. There is less expensive ways, but this is definitely a good way. What you want to do, again, this is your spot right here that you chose not to go past, but more or less you want to keep in this line. So what you want to do is activate the actual transmitter part of the MagnaSpot and go up into the ceiling, and it has a thumbtack. You just attach to the drywall, and it'll just leave a real small pinhole, which you can cover up real quickly with a little caulking, because most ceilings are going to be white. So caulking will definitely do the trick. Now, the trick behind using one of these, the receiver in, is that there is 4 arrows. When you activate it and you go up into the attic, it starts to give you a tone. And you also have the option of going toneless. But basically you want to travel following the arrows where it's telling you to go. And once you get all 4 arrows, you are directly above the desired spot. Sometimes it takes a little practice when you're doing this. Almost got it. And there we go, we got a full light up right there. And again, you can go without the audible sound. And when you got your 4 arrows, that means you're right on the spot. So that's a $200 way of getting that done. But there is also a more economical, either the $200 way of doing it, or you can go with basically what I can call a $2 method. It's very effective. It leaves the same imprint as the transmitter with a little pin, and you don't have to spend $200. And basically, what you want to do is um, use a piece of coax. That's what this is. The center core is copper, and you want to go ahead and strip back that copper with a coax stripper. And I already did some, but just to give you a quick example of how you can do it to clearly strip a little more, because sometimes you're going to need more copper or less copper depending on the density of the insulation up in the attic. So you just keep stripping. If there is, 4 inches, 6 inches, however many inches of insulation. So again, you got your spot. This is where you want it. So you grab a firm hold of the copper and you just drive it into the sheetrock and just real slowly send it right up. And it will even attach itself. So that when you go up to the attic, you know for sure this is the spot clear and present as far as where you want to make that drill. Now, again, that is the much more simpler $2 option versus buying a fancy piece of equipment, which is nice, but not totally necessary. So, say we already have our indicator, we know where we're at, we're going to go up to the attic, and we're going to, well, before we go up to the attic, we actually want to, of course, cut out our notch as far as where we want it. And again, as close as possible to a stud would be the best, so that you can have something to really direct yourself off of when you're up on top, and it'll be easier to fish your line out afterwards. So we already went through that process. So now we have this little receptacle here that we can use to go ahead and frame up the opening, so that whenever we draw our line through, we can go ahead and terminate it afterwards with the punch down that comes for the Ethernet. So let me just demonstrate on how easy this is to install one of these receptacles. It's going to fit right in as soon as you make the little template marks. You're going to raise the little lever in the back. Make sure your hands are clear. And just very slowly, you want to drill till becomes firm and tight up against the wall. You don't want to over drill, because if you do that, that little paddle can push its way through your drywall and end up breaking your drywall. So the same thing with the bottom. You want to adjust the little paddle to where it's grabbing the bottom portion of the drywall. And real easy. You'll feel it tighten up nice and good. So you've already made your hole. You have your indicator. And you simply want to go ahead and, for all intents and purposes, I'm going to go ahead and take off this little fake seating real quick, so that we could do a little quick demo on how we're going to do the top. Now, typically, you want to, again, before you do any type of drilling on the top plate when you're in the attic, make sure that you're careful when you're up in the attic on the overhead with the nails coming through, if you do have the shingle type of roofing. And of course, you always want to make sure you step on the joist up in the attic, because you can very easily fall right through the sheetrock. It happens to professionals, so it can happen very easily to someone that does not have experience being up in an attic. So again, just be very careful when you do enter an attic. Things you want to look out for once you're up in the attic is definitely electrical lines. that means for sure stay away from that, because obviously you do not want to get electrocuted. Now, with the power drill, once you get up there, a good desired size drill bit would be about 3/4 inch. A flat paddle blade or wood boring blade, they call it many different names. 3/4 inch is a real good choice to use as far as boring a hole. And in this situation, I've already bored a hole. What you want to do is make sure you keep your drill nice and steady, straight, level as much as possible. Some people could even use a little bubble level if your drill doesn't already come with it. That helps you keep or maintain your drill in a straight form. Once you've already drilled the hole onto the top plate, you can go ahead and take up a box or however much Ethernet wire that you need, and you can go ahead and start just easily dropping it into the hole. And again, like I mentioned earlier before, it's good to use a reference point as your stud. And another indicator that you know when you're up in the attic that you're by a stud is that you will see a pair of nails every 16 or 24 inches on the top plate. So that's also a good indicator to tell you, okay, don't get too close because you're only going to hit a stud. And they're usually centered, so 3/4 inches this way and 3/4 inches to the right is the thickness of a 2x4. So I'm coming over about 1.5 inches just to be on the safe side. So you just easily, feed as much as you can. You can just estimate what 8 feet is more or less. And then, once you feel that you've already fed it enough, what you want to do is try to start searching for your line. And again, if you put enough down in the hole, it will bunch up and allow you to just be able to reach in and feed it out, and you can just pull it out, just like that. And then if it's too much, of course, you could always go back up into the attic and easily just draw it out. So you can't go wrong with feeding too much Ethernet line. It actually helps you when it comes to being able to just poke in there and feel around until you grab something and just pull it out. And there you go. Very easy, very effective. And of course, I showed you a couple of manners on how to do it. You can spend a little bit of money for some high performance tools, or the simple way, because you're only going to probably do it once, or you might plan to do it more than one time. So this concludes today's video on how to install a basic Ethernet wall drop. Thanks for watching. I hope you found my video very informative. If you did, please be sure to leave a like and consider subscribing to my channel. Also, feel free to leave a comment below if you have any suggestions on what you would like to see in the future. I would like to give a special thanks to our sponsor today, to Gorilla Shaved Ice, voted best shaved ice in the Alamo City. You can follow them on Facebook and Instagram. Again, thanks for watching, and stay tuned for our next video.